Green, as they say, is becoming the new luxury. Welcome to Sustainable Stay, Advancing Hospitality Through Energy Efficiency, our podcast series presented by Hotelier India and supported by Grant Force.
Today's episode is going to be an exciting one because we are exploring the big green world of hospitality with two fantastic guests who are at the forefront of making our stays not just comfortable but also sustainable. Joining us today are two champions of the cause, Mandar Zaware, Vice President Design and Project Management at Marriott International, and Louis Brown, Head of Hospitality Development at Grant. Welcome, Mandar and Louis. Great to have you both here.
Thank you so much, Vinodini.
My first question, and that is to Mandar. Okay, so let's start with Marriott's journey. Marriott has been a leader in sustainability. So, what are Marriott's primary goals, when it comes to reducing the carbon footprint of your properties globally? And how do you go about measuring the progress?
Sure, I think it all starts from the early stages of design. We try to build our new hotels and resorts to be far more efficient than it used to be, say, 15 years back. Centralizing, we are measuring the amount of food that goes onto those buffets, and also, what waste, gets out of our kitchen areas. Those are being monitored, measured, and every hotel has given their performance chart where they need to improve upon. So that's one area where obviously we are evolving. I would put it this way: we are trying to find that right balance. We are creating in our newer hotels. We are trying to create part buffet, part a la carte menu for breakfast, because for breakfast you definitely need a easy large spread, because they are everyone is looking for a quick meal. And then get down to our work wherein 70% of our hotels in the country are in cities. Along with that becomes the show kitchen component when it comes to F&B. If you don't do show kitchen, there's not too much of a guest interaction with the chefs who are running the show. But then it's also causes for a lot of energy loss, air conditioning loss. So that's another challenge that we are trying to work on, how to mitigate that by use of, I would say, smart HVAC systems, food systems. But then it all comes at a cost, right? Those technologies are more expensive. Another aspect is when it comes to luxury brands, the expectation is to have a bathtub. Obviously, that causes extra water losses. So we are trying to work out a solution where some of our not luxury, but then I would say premium hotels where bathtub was originally a necessity 15 years back. In city locations, we are trying to cut that down or restrict the bathtub, that fourth fixture, to maybe suites or executive level rooms. And we have to strike that right balance. It shouldn't looked at one important component that gets missed out of the hotel infrastructure. I think those are two important aspects which we are struggling or to figure out the right solution.
So, how long ago had this journey kind of started, Mandar, about being more aware about sustainability and following, eco-friendly practices? Of course, a lot of environmentally friendly practices have been around, but when did it really become serious? How long ago would you say?
So Marriott as a company has been doing it, for quite some time. I would put it this way. See, it's not just about energy efficiency. If you really look at that, energy efficiency also translates in profitability for the hotel and for the investors. So while now obviously the drive is on sustainability, but then we have been doing that for quite some time. We were one of the first companies to use, energy efficient chillers, or also replace our chiller systems much earlier on than their, time period, because obviously it causes for, high energy consumptions, things like those. We were one of the first hotel chains in the country to have LED technology. I remember when we did renovation of Marriott Goa, that was about 15 years back or more. And at that time, LED was expensive. But then with the support of our investors, we felt that's one aspect that should be used when, that technology was very, very expensive. And Marriott wants to be in the forefront of, innovation to ensure that we are, in the forefront.
So, any recent initiative, let's say energy saving initiative across your properties that have had you thinking, yes, this is really making a difference. Can you just share with us
Sure.
a couple of projects, the recent projects?
So we have our footprint in the Maldives. Now we have become the largest international operator in the Maldives. In Maldives, it's one island, one hotel, right? So right from electricity to water, everything has to be produced on the island. That means you have generators working 24 by 7, burning fuel to, to provide the necessary electricity to keep the resort operational. On the Meridian Maldives, which we opened about, I think about, it's been now 3 years plus in operation, we were able to implement solar panels and batteries now. So that's one area. I'd put it this way, solar, which we think there's a lot of potential for us to utilize, solar technology in our hotels. So while that was, done as one of our, I would say, first models, we are trying to implement that in all of most of our upcoming resorts or even city hotels for that matter, where we are able to, provide large scale solar infrastructure.
So, when it comes to setting the infrastructure for solar, let's say solar generated power, at which stage does it need to be done? Can this be done once the hotel is completely set up, or it needs to be done at the initial stages?
I mean, it can be even done, it could be looked at as a retrofit solution, definitely, with the existing hotels
Okay.
and resorts that we have in the system, and we are already doing so. But if we plan it in advance, keep provision, because you need space to have those large solar panels. And if you are
Hmm.
able to, do it at a much earlier stage, obviously, it becomes a far more efficient solution than it could have been as a retrofit. So obviously, starting at the early stage when we are working with our architects, and if the brief is provided, they will ensure that, space is made available, whether it's on the roof or whether it's on the elevation facade of the structure.
So, what kind of guidelines you have for the hotels which are in the pipeline right now, which have just been signed, let's say? Do you have a framework in place for sustainability?
Definitely, yes. I would put it this way, about 12 years back, we kind of made mandatory for our upcoming hotels to have daylight
Hmm.
in our meeting spaces. What that
Hmm.
means is one side of the meeting space or the ballroom will have
Hmm.
glazing to have natural light within the space. Obviously,
Hmm.
it then cuts down into, the lighting load that is required. So
Hmm.
that's, one step. Obviously, as I explained before, efficiency in
Hmm.
terms of planning, it
Hmm.
causes for reduction in our back of the house hotel areas, which are, operated 24 by 7. There's air conditioning and lighting 24 by 7. And we have been, I would put it this way, able to achieve about 30% or more reduction in those spaces, which used to be, say, 15 years back. So that's another important aspect. When it comes to landscape, obviously we are now far more conscious on use of water bodies, and landscape elements. Yeah, we are more sustainable that way.
Great insights, Mandar. Let's turn to you, Louis. Grundfos is known for making cutting-edge water pump solutions. So, what innovative technologies or practices are on the horizon, that might soon become standard in hospitality?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And in fact, I think what we find is one of the most common guest complaints in hotels is often found in the showers. by inadequate water pressure and also irregular water temperature. And of course, when we are staying in hotels, especially in a 4 or 5 star hotel, it is something that the guest will immediately notice, right? When they're taking a shower, if the water pressure is not consistent, or if the water is not hot when they're taking a shower. So this often leads to guests running the showers for an extended period of time actually before they get into it. So the shower is running, water is being wasted, the taps are being regulated. So one of the integrated solutions that we actually have in our pumps is constant pressure control or even proportional pressure control, so that the pumps and the variable speed drives are actually consistent at all times. So constantly providing the right pressure all the time consistently. And due to this, and due to less fluctuation of the supply of cold water, then actually we can see that this is something that hotels are looking to standardize by making sure that the pumps that they have on their site are always integrated with the right sensors and the right control logic. This will save water, but this will also help improve comfort and the guest experience. So I would say in terms of standardization, for sure, pumps fitted with sensors and variable speed drives is becoming more the norm now.
What rate is the industry using it right now, Louis, if I may ask you this question? And how soon do you think it will get implemented or it will get more effective, implemented and used?
For sure, it's becoming more common. Owners and operators, what we see, are taking ESG into consideration when investing. So I would say, in fact, that most new hotels are adapting this new technology stack available, both driven by awareness, but also out of mandate by the commitments that they've made towards sustainability. So I would say that in most new buildings, it's part of the standard. But then also, of course, in the existing hotels, there are always more existing hotels than new hotels. So it is really in the existing hotels where I think the journey is coming a long way. So there are a lot of technologies available today whereby we can actually help improve operation in also the older buildings and actually help them reduce a significant amount of energy. Again, by improving the sequence of operation, or of course through energy audits. So in fact, in Grundfos, we have done a large number of energy audits, including at Marriott hotels, where we've helped these properties replace some of their older pumps with newer efficient pumps. And by doing so, improve guest comfort, but also reduced energy and water consumption. And typically such an audit, it starts with measuring the head pressure, the flow rate, the power consumption. So really taking account for how these pumps are operating within the building, investigating also the overall building behavior, and then really making a value engineered solution that fits for that building and that we can actually help them reduce not just, let's say, 5 or 10% energy, but upwards of 30 or 40% when we get it right. And that, of course, is really significantly helping the journey towards scope 1 and 2 for the Marriott hotels. So I would say standardization for new hotels and energy audits for existing hotels are two primary focus areas.
Great, great. So how do you, you spoke about ESG and how hotels are becoming very ESG conscious. How do you integrate ESG considerations into your product development? Are there any specific goals that guide your R&D tools?
For sure. And one of the bold claims and statements that Grundfos made in 1973 is that every new pump that we bring to the market must be at least 10% more efficient than the previous model. So every time that we're launching new products, they are 10% more efficient than the model that it is replacing. So that is one element, but then also circularity and recyclability are two other key points that we factor into our products.
How about you, Mandar? You know, how does Marriott approach environmental, social, and governance goals? Are there any specific guidelines you're following to align with global standards, or do you have your own set of ESG standards to comply with?
Yes, of course. So our design standards are continuously being revised, enhanced, to ensure that all the sustainability goals are installed in them. Obviously, that's one particular objective. That's how those get followed through on every project that we, open and execute.
Okay, okay. So, guests often see those little signs in bathrooms about reusing towels. Is there like a lesser known way that Marriott is involving guests in energy saving practices?
Yes, of course, this hospitality business, we have to take feedback from our end users, and try to test, the limits where we can get at. And if you really look at, there was a time when we used to use those small amenities, the shampoo bottles and, other things out of plastic. This would be maybe 15 years back. Now, if you visit our hotels, obviously you would see those larger ones, reusable ones, which can be refilled. At that point of time, we used to think, will that really work? Will the guest feel comfortable to use reusable shampoo and other, amenities? But then no, I mean, every guest is now getting more and more conscious, and we are moving in that particular direction. Other example would be obviously, our linen. We do point out to our guest, if they want to change the linen per day, then there is obviously a different, I would say, placard, which can be, placed. So I think it has to be by both the parties, encouraging the guests and engaging them in to be part of this sustainability drive.
Louis, how do you ensure, water systems impact a hotel's overall ESG score as well?
When we talk about water, there are a number of ways how water can be optimized, both through water harvesting. There are ways how to collect the rainfall water in certain areas with high rainfall. There are ways how to recycle the water for things like irrigation and landscaping. And then there's also ways how to reduce water, to make up water in certain systems. Water is for sure a key area, and it's probably also one of the areas that the hotels are most challenged with to reduce it, because the behavior of the guests typically in hotels when they are visiting, of course, they are taking showers, they are, of course, using the laundry services. So there are some external factors that are very much guest dependent. But in terms of the systems which are back of house, that the engineering department can control, there are a lot of technologies and best practices available just to minimize water consumption, and with that improve the ESG score.
Do you think hotels have a lot of misconceptions when it comes to sustainable water management? What are the myths that you often encounter, and how does Grundfos work to debunk them, Louis?
I would say most large organizations, they do have KPIs to track their activities towards sustainability. But at the same time, there are still many organizations that struggle with the facts and data. So I think what's really important, first and foremost, is to make sure that the equipment on site is digital ready. And what I mean by that is when they are digital ready, we can actually start to obtain and extract data out of the equipment to understand the building behavior and where the consumption of this, let's say, water and energy is going. So digitally enabled equipment is a very good starting point, because that will actually really help give the building visibility into where the gaps are, where the lack of efficiency currently is being created. And then based on actual and real data, which can directly be extracted out of our E-range pumps, we can then start to optimize. So I would say, if you're asking where is the misconception, it's not necessarily a misconception, but sometimes a lack of visibility into where exactly is the energy and water being consumed. And once we understand that, then of course we can start looking at how can that be addressed.
Okay, so Sat, if for a lay person or maybe somebody who's new to this whole concept, they may think that water management systems and sustainable practices are more expensive than the normal route, the conventional methods of water management. Is that a myth? Would that be a myth, Louis?
I would say that in general, when we are looking at any engineering systems, of course, the more premium products are premiumly priced due to reliability of the equipment. They will be much more durable. They'll be much more long lasting. They'll be much more efficient. So the myth perhaps is, if you're purely comparing on a component to a component level, some of the premium equipment might look more expensive today But then if we look at the total cost of ownership of the equipment over a 15 and 20-year period, and we do a calculation, then it's quite quickly to demystify, if you like, that the equipment is not expensive over a 20-year period when we consider how much more efficient and how much less energy it will consume compared to, let's say, less premium products. So I think doing that analysis is really important.
Mandar, tell us about these green certifications. Are there any sustainability certifications or benchmarks that Marriott is aiming for in the next few years? And also, what are the current ones which are very important for your brand?
I would put it this way, yeah, our company is looking at net zero commitment by 2050. And obviously, all the initiative is being targeted towards that. Obviously, it will be a progressive, transition towards that. Conservation, waste reduction, those are part of the plan, which not just while we are building our new hotels, but of course, during our day-to-day operations, those will be followed, measured. That's part of every hotel's KPI, using smart building and IoT integration to ensure like what even Lewis did mention, use the technology so that we are able to measure it and work towards better solutions. Use of obviously also the supply chain networks. I mean, how sustainable they are and how we can make use of all of that. Obviously, in design, coming back to design, wellness and biophilic design, which is also what the new age guests are expecting. That is also parallelly assisting sustainability, which is part of our design program. Yeah.
I was just going to add to that. And I also think using science-based targets is another methodology which we are seeing more and more commonly used now, and especially in scope 3 on the upstream, where we're really looking at the entire supply chain and what they're offering, and that's making sure that all the subcomponents are compliant to supporting the organization, of course, with their goals, and also such certifications such as the green building, or whether that be LEED. And this will definitely help improve the overall scoring. So I think using science-based targets is something that many organizations are now looking at.
Mandar, please tell us a little more about that.
So one is obviously, appointing lead consultants in the beginning of the project who are able to obviously, throw some guidance and are able to put a check on almost every consultant to ensure, that those sustainability requirements are being met. I mean, that's during the whole design process. During procurement, the lead consultants along with, the necessary other consultants, if it's interior designer and they are looking at materials, then are those materials being sourced correctly? Are they sustainable enough? Things like those. So effectively, getting down to a hotel which is built on that backbone definitely would be far more impactful. And then obviously use of BMS and monitoring technologies for water usage, electrical usage. So each and every department, each and every restaurant, the consumption of water, electricity gets monitored. But then that all starts from designing an infrastructure and then implementing it to our advantage. So every hotel in our system gets monitored in that way. What has been the energy consumption? Why has that been so high? How can we reduce that? So we have a small panel in our company who does those necessary audits and suggestions as and when required.
Water scarcity becoming a major concern even worldwide, how is Marriott working to reduce water consumption, especially probably in areas like pools, landscaping, or guest rooms?
Yeah, I can give you an example. I mean, we opened a property in Jaisalmer. That's a Marriott hotel, which obviously It's a resort in the sand dunes, and the proposal came to have a bathtub in every room. We just felt it doesn't work, for that particular location. I mean, obviously, we can design for it, but it just didn't make sense when there is so much amount of water scarcity. So we have to be looking at almost each and every location. If it's, locations like Ranthambore or other areas, is it really essential for us to provide that fourth fixture for that particular brand? So those are the calls which we consciously take within our company, to be able to.
So just generally, like we're talking
Mhm.
about water scarcity, and
Correct.
how does Marriott work to
Oh, yeah.
reduce water consumption in such areas, where
Right,
there's
right.
really problem, yeah.
Yeah, and of course, use of, I would say there are new age sewage treatment plants where actually, you can get water that is portable, that you can actually drink with the technology that we have.
Right.
I also think here the trend that we start to see with a lot of hotels. So let's take an example of a remote hotel. They might have an RO system, of course, to purify and treat the water and make that water contaminated free so that it can be used as drink water. So I think reverse osmosis systems are becoming quite more advanced and more reliable. And then, of course, also as I mentioned earlier on, in places where there is high rainfall, there will be systems available such as rainwater harvesting, right, where we can capture the water, store the water, and then use it for a later purpose, such as for irrigation or maybe for wash applications, for fountains or cooling towers or toilets, so non-guest facing. So there are two elements to that.
How does Grundfos tailor its solutions for regions with specific water challenges, Louis?
Yeah, I think those two, as I just mentioned. So in the
Yeah.
remote areas, the reverse osmosis would be a solution, and then in an area where there is high rainfall, capturing that water and repurposing that water in other areas where, let's say, the cleanliness of the water is not of paramount importance. So the irrigation, as an example.
In the next 5 or 10 years, Mandar, what innovations in sustainable practices or technologies do you envision, transforming the industry? And how is Marriott preparing for those advancements, if I may ask? What are the new things? What are the new trends that are going to be on the horizon?
I think solar is one technology which is yet to be harnessed to its, full effectiveness. And we are actually partnering with companies such as Schneider and trying to get that solution implemented in our upcoming hotels. Obviously, as and how the technology will improve, it will only add to, that extra level of efficiency. But then that creating that infrastructure and design is extremely important. So that's one key aspect. Another important aspect is obviously, I would say efficiency in design, which we, are doing that continuously, looking at newer solutions, working with architects, designers, MEP consultants, on newer age technologies, partnering with obviously companies such as Grundfos, Carrier, who produce chiller systems, and laundry manufacturers. Wherever we see there is a opportunity where, energy, water can be conserved to a larger degree than what we are currently doing. Yeah.
How about Grundfos? Any big trends that are going to be coming up?
Yes, for sure. I would also say working with the likes of Marriott it remains a top priority for Gonfos to ensure that also in their design stage, the specifications are as optimal as possible. So providing the right trainings, sharing the right knowledge, best practices. So I think that will always continue. And in terms from a technology point of view, I think we see a huge opportunity with regards to integrating AI into our equipment, making the equipment more smart, more energy efficient, and understanding behavior and patterns within the overall application. I think those two areas remain of primary importance, and it's a trend that we would expect continues over the next 5 or 10 years. And I also think standardization, if I could add that, what we can see in the hotel industry, that making sure that a hotel in, let's say, Mumbai or in Bangkok or in Dubai, that we have some level of standardization. And that's really important to both understand energy and energy simulation, but also ease of use within these systems. Because again, in today's world where we have high occupancy levels, demanding guests, the engineering team already has their hands full, right, on a day-to-day basis. So making sure that the pumps and systems that are in the building are as easy to operate and as flexible to operate, I think that remains very important.
Great. So here's a little a fun question for you both. If sustainability had a scent, what would you imagine it smells like? Fresh linen, newly planted garden, or maybe a whiff of recycled paper? I know I'm just taking you unawares, but just to break,
Yeah.
just
I
to
mean,
add
for
a
me,
fun
it
moment.
would be,
If
the garden. Yeah.
a newly planted garden. Okay,
Yeah.
that's nice. How about you, Louis?
Yeah, I'd probably say the same. I would say the same as Mandar. I think the garden for sure.
Okay, before we wind this up, Mandar and Louis, can we do a quick and fun rapid fire round? Just answer with the first thing that comes to mind, and I'll
Sure.
start the questions. Are we ready? Okay, Mandar, one city where you dream of building a fully sustainable hotel, and why?
So one city, I mean, okay, city is difficult. I mean, Maldives, I think, is one area where I think the consumption of energy is so high, and it's got so much opportunity. So that's one area, I mean, one region where I would really look at a fully sustainable resort. Yeah.
I think that's a really great answer, Manda. And why I think that's a great answer is because also often the eyes are on the ultra luxury segment of the
Yes.
market. So I think if you can get it right there, then that becomes the showcase for all other buildings in other cities to follow.
Yeah. That could be a great benchmark. Yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
Wow. If Grundfos had to design a green superhero, what would the name be?
I would
Captain
say
Aqua.
maybe Marvel efficiency.
Oh, lovely. Mandar, what's that one green item that's always in your travel bag?
One green item.
Yes,
Uh,
green in
I
single
do,
quotes. Yeah.
yeah, I do carry a glass water bottle. I mean, our job, I mean, we are on sites all the time. And the moment you enter a site, what you are offered are, you see like tons of plastic water bottles, right? So,
Right.
so I do carry a glass water bottle. I mean, and then, you use that while I'm doing my site rounds and things like those, which kind of helps to a certain degree. And I actually copied it from a architect friend of mine. And I can see a trend now. Lot many people are doing the same. In any case, our hotels are, have already cut down on plastic bottles. But then construction sites where you don't have a portable, I would say sometimes. So that gets used. So yeah, that's one thing. Yeah.
Wow. So you have your own reusable water bottle always by your side.
Yeah.
Yes. Louis, one country you'd like to visit just to see their sustainable practices in action.
I would say probably India, actually, because again, I think there is a lot of innovation happening, and it's a country that's poised for growth. Obviously, now with the largest population globally, I think they're really at the forefront for making a positive impact and change. So I would actually say India. I would like to go there. There are so many beautiful hotels, beautiful cities, interesting culture. So for sure, I would say India would be the first choice.
Wow. We wait to welcome you, Louis.
Thank you.
Before we wind up, any last message that both of you would like to put out to our readers when it comes to sustainability and hospitality? Please go ahead.
Yes, I would say change is possible and embrace it, embrace sustainability. It should be part of the overall thinking and an integrated topic of any discussion. There are so many solutions available today that can help hotels along that journey. So I would say, yeah, be aware of what solutions are there and how all of the, let's say, premium vendors can help you along the journey. And you're not alone, right? We're all, we share this world together. We share the same air, the same water. Let's try and make sure that we can preserve it as much as possible.
Great. Yes, Mandar?
Yeah, very well said, Louis. Totally agree with you. It has to be all of us into it together. We can't, build something and, for the end user to then, you start to use it without the understanding or his commitment to it. So if everybody of us, all of us are committed towards it, embrace it, obviously that's the way to go. Absolutely, yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you both, Mandar and Louis, for sharing your insights, expertise, and also adding in a bit of fun. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you both. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you both for joining me today, and thank you to our listeners as well. Remember, the next time you're staying at a hotel, those stylish lamps, soft sheets, and long hot showers are all part of a complex, sustainable effort to keep both you and the planet comfortable. Until next time, this is Vinodini Rao signing off. Stay tuned, stay green. Goodbye.